There's a super yacht anchored off Barcelona right now that has run its engines for less than 200 hours in 3 years. It carries a full-time crew of 54. Every one of them gets paid. Every single day, whether the owner is on board or not. At the end, I'll tell you why that emptiness is the entire point. Level 1. Level 1 is not ownership. It's a charter. A 90-foot boat, roughly 50 meters, books out of the Mediterranean for around $300,000 a week. The buyer here is a tech founder 6 weeks post-exit, chartering the boat to entertain the investors who just made him rich. He has never driven it, never will, and refers to the captain as the guy. The boat itself doesn't care who's on it. It ran the same route last week for a shipping heir and will run it again next week for whoever wires the deposit. The Mediterranean, at this level, is less an ocean and more a very expensive conveyor belt. The charter brokerage that arranged this trip took a 15% commission on top of the $300,000, quietly, the way a wedding planner pads a florist invoice. Nobody at the table asked because at this level, asking what something costs is a bigger tell than paying it. You are not renting a boat. You are renting the appearance of already having arrived 1 week at a time on somebody else's asset. Level 2. A mid-range super yacht, 70 to 80 meters, runs somewhere between $80 and $150 million. Here's the number that changes the entire conversation. Running costs on a yacht this size are reportedly estimated at around 10% of the purchase price, every single year. Crew, insurance, dockage, fuel, the anti-fouling paint that has to be reapplied whether the hull touched open water or not. A $100 million yacht costs roughly $10 million a year to simply continue existing. The buyer is a private equity partner who owns it primarily to host limited partners twice a summer. The other 50 weeks it sits at a marina in Monaco, running the air conditioning so the interior wood doesn't warp. His captain reportedly runs the twin diesels for exactly 40 minutes every Sunday at dock, so the engines don't seize from disuse. That's not maintenance. That's a boat being kept alive in a coma. Insurance alone on a $100 million hull reportedly runs into the low 7 figures annually before a single claim is filed. The math only gets stranger from here. It does not get gentler. The number that should scare you isn't the purchase price. It's the fact that the purchase price is the smallest bill you'll ever pay for this boat. Level 3, picture this. It's 5 in the morning off the coast of a research zone in Antarctica that most cruise ships aren't licensed to enter. A crane lowers a submersible into black water while a helicopter idles on a landing pad built into the stern. Rotors already turning for a scouting run. Nobody on land will ever hear about. This is Level 3. A 100-meter Explorer-class yacht, ice-strengthened hull, its own submersible garage, a helicopter deck rated for actual missions and not just photographs. Reportedly, in the $300 to $400 million range, the buyer is a mining and energy billionaire who wants access, not applause. He didn't build this to be seen. He built it to go places that don't have marinas, don't have ports, and in some cases don't officially have names yet. The crew includes marine biologists who technically work for the owner and not for any university, which means their research belongs to a person instead of a peer-reviewed journal. The hull is rated to push through first-year ice without an icebreaker escort. The owner needed one phone call. The permit, in this case, was the boat itself. The next tier doesn't just cost more. It starts asking what the yacht is actually protecting you from. Because from level 4 onward, the boat stops being about where you can go. It starts being about who can't reach you when you're there. Level 4. This arms race has a lineage. In the 1950s, Aristotle Onassis built the Christina O, a yacht reportedly so lavish the bar stools were said to be upholstered in the foreskin of whales, a claim so specific it has survived 70 years purely because nobody wants to be the one who fact-checks it. Level 4 is a yacht like the reported specification of Eclipse, the vessel long associated with Roman Abramovich, reportedly around $1.5 billion to build, with a missile detection system, bulletproof glass on the owner's private suite, and a laser-based anti-paparazzi shield Onassis wanted a story people would repeat at dinner parties for decades. This level wants to make sure nobody at the dinner party has a photo to prove any of it happened. There's reportedly a shadow vessel that travels separately, a support ship carrying the toys, the extra fuel, and the security detail. So the main yacht never has to look like it's hiding anything, because the thing worth hiding is already 3 nautical miles behind it, flying a different flag. Level 5. Private aviation solved a problem decades ago that super yachts are only now catching up to. Once you're rich enough, the plane isn't the asset. The fleet of planes hidden behind one tail number is shuffled between operators so no single flight log tells the whole story of where you actually were. Level 5 applies that same logic underwater. These yachts now carry integrated private submarines, not toys. Actual multi-person subs from builders like U-Boat Works or Triton, capable of descending thousands of meters, docked in a garage that opens from beneath the waterline, so the sub can launch without the yacht ever appearing to have one. The buyer is an adventure tech billionaire who has already been to space, or is on the waiting list, and considers the ocean floor the more interesting itinerary, mostly because fewer people have seen it, and even fewer can afford to check his math. Private aviation figured out decades ago that the real luxury isn't the vehicle. It's the vehicle nobody sees you use. The submarine garage exists for the exact same reason the private terminal exists, not speed, deniability. A 3-person submersible at this level reportedly costs between $15 and $30 million on top of the yacht itself, which means the accessory now costs more than the entire boat did at level 1. Nobody calls it an accessory out loud. They call it the tender. Level 6. Nobody at this level owns their own yacht, not on paper. The vessel is registered under a flag state like the Cayman Islands or the Marshall Islands, held through a layered ownership structure of shell companies, often 3 or 4 deep, so that a public record search returns a corporate name and nothing resembling an actual human being. Crew sign non-disclosure agreements before they're told the guest list. Builds happen at yards like Lursen, Feedship, or Ocean Co., where order books reportedly run 5 to 7 years out. The buyer isn't really a person at this level. It's a family office, structured to outlive the person who commissioned it, run by lawyers who have never once been photographed on the deck they're legally responsible for. You'd assume the paperwork exists to protect the money. It exists to make sure nobody can prove whose money it was in the first place. Even the crew contracts are structured through a separate management company, so if something goes wrong on board, legally, there is no single entity that both owns the yacht and employed the person who made the mistake. The lawsuit has nowhere to land because the target was never built to exist in one place. That's the system working exactly as designed. Level 7. This is the level that overturns everything you assumed for the last 6. In 2022, when sanctions hit a wave of Russian oligarchs almost overnight, something became visible that the industry usually keeps invisible. Super yachts didn't head to parties. They ran. Vessels reportedly worth hundreds of millions of dollars each departed European ports within hours. That's when it became obvious what the largest yachts in the world are actually for. Not vacation, readiness. A billion-dollar yacht that spends 200 hours a year at sea isn't a failure of the asset. It's the asset performing exactly as intended. International waters carry no passport control. No subpoena reaches a vessel that left 6 hours before the paperwork was signed. The crew of 54 isn't there to serve breakfast. They're there so the boat can leave in under an hour, at any hour, for any reason. The engines that only run 40 minutes a week at level 2 were never neglect. They were rehearsal. Every single level below this one was quietly training the same muscle. Leave fast, leave clean, leave before anyone can ask a question that has a bad answer. At level 1, the boat was a week you rented to look like you'd already made it. At level 7, the boat is the thing standing between you and a courtroom you were never planning to attend. Same object, start to finish. completely different function, and it only reveals itself once you stop asking what the yacht looks like and start asking what it's actually built to do at 3 in the morning with no warning. The yacht was never about the ocean. It was about the exit.